You've spent your life being admired for your mind. You were the one who made sense of everything, the calm in crisis, the voice of reason, the one they turned to when the ground gave way. But when the world goes quiet, when the applause fades and the theories run out, you can't escape a single unshakable truth. You can explain everything, except why you feel so empty. You've built your identity on clarity. You've lived in logic, precision, analysis. You've turned emotion into data points, joy into neurochemistry, sadness into structure. You've trained yourself to stay detached, because feeling was the one variable you couldn't predict. So you constructed walls out of intellect, strong, elegant, impenetrable. And behind them you slowly disappeared. Not all at once, just enough to stop noticing the warmth, just enough to observe life instead of being inside it, just enough to make even your pain feel distant, theoretical, clean. You spoke about meaning like a philosopher, but forgot what it meant to ache for it. You described love in systems, but couldn't remember the last time you let someone reach you, and now, in the quiet of your own design, you start to feel it. Not panic, not breakdown, a kind of grief. Grief for the moments you never fully lived. Grief for the connections you translated instead of touched. You mapped the stars with precision, then wondered why your soul was freezing in the dark, because what you called strength, what the world praised as brilliance, was in part a beautiful way to disappear. You didn't choose to shut down, you chose to survive. But surviving is not the same as being alive, and maybe now you're ready to feel what thinking alone could never give you: wholeness. You didn't fall into the abyss. You engineered it, one clean deduction at a time. You built it with blueprints of brilliance, framed in objectivity, insulated by precision. You didn't build a prison, you built a system, a sanctuary of sense, a labyrinth of logic, and it worked until it didn't. At first it felt like mastery. You could explain anything, neutralize everything, stay above it all. Emotion became unnecessary, unreliable, uninvited, but now the same structures that once made you feel strong, you feel cold, uninhabited, airless. You look around and realize there are no exits. You created the perfect pattern, but you forgot to leave a door. You keep looping the same memories, searching for new data in old wounds. You revisit every mistake, not to understand it, but to dissect it one more time. You call it clarity, but it's not. It's containment. This is the loop, not chaos, not collapse. A mind turning inward like a spiral staircase with no bottom. You've become Daedalus, master of the maze, lost inside your own design. And when someone finally asks how you are, you offer a diagnosis instead of a feeling, because connection wasn't in the algorithm and vulnerability wasn't part of the plan. But then something breaks the loop, not a scream, a whisper, a moment that doesn't fit the framework, a memory that makes you feel before you can name it. Someone looks at you, not to be impressed, but to know you, and you freeze, because you've forgotten how to be seen. You once told someone you were fine, then spent 3 hours trying to figure out why you didn't believe yourself. And that's when you realize your brilliance isn't broken. It's just been carrying too much. Your thoughts weren't wrong. They were overworked. You were never too logical. You were just afraid that feeling might unravel everything you built. But maybe that's not destruction. Maybe it's freedom. You've explained the world down to its smallest pieces, every thought mapped, every feeling decoded. You've made a life out of answering questions most people never even knew how to ask, and still, you wake up hollow. You can tell someone what love is chemically. You can describe grief neurologically. You can articulate the architecture of joy with the precision of a surgeon, but you can't remember the last time you felt any of it. You're not lost, you're just disconnected. From warmth, from meaning, from yourself, and you've been calling it clarity. You wear your detachment like armor, but lately it's started to feel like skin you can't crawl out of. You still show up, still perform, still think in flawless lines, but it's not performance fatigue, it's emotional exile. This isn't about burnout, it's about forgetting how to feel alive. You once described heartbreak as cognitive dissonance, but the truth is you couldn't sleep for 3 nights. You once laughed out loud, then immediately replayed the moment in your mind like an outsider studying a stranger. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you've trained yourself to review every emotion before it's allowed to arrive, and so now even joy feels like a memory of something that once mattered. You've been orbiting your life like a satellite, close enough to observe, too far to belong. Camus called it the absurd, the ache of a mind that demands meaning from a world that gives none. But maybe the world does offer meaning. Maybe it just doesn't offer it in your language, because meaning doesn't live in analysis. It lives in presence. It lives in the things you can't name, but know you're missing. Pascal was right. The heart has its reasons, and they don't answer to your mind. Maybe they never will, but maybe, just maybe, that's not a failure of understanding. Maybe that's your soul finally trying to speak. You don't fall apart. You fade, not with a scream, not with a crack, but with a silence that grows louder than anything you've ever thought. You still sound like yourself. You still say smart things. You still nod at the right times. But somewhere between your sentences, something vital has gone quiet. It's not depression, it's not despair, it's something more subtle, more dangerous. It's becoming a ghost in your own life. You narrate your days instead of living them. You describe connection like a foreign country you read about once in a book. You measure your existence by output, not experience, and no one sees it because you've perfected the mask, the intellectual sheen, the curated insight, the emotional neutrality. But lately you can't escape one terrifying thought. You're still functioning, but you don't feel real. You once told someone you were fine, then stood in the kitchen for 10 minutes, staring into a cup of coffee like it might remind you who you are. You keep people close by staying interesting. You keep yourself safe by being unreadable. And all the while, a quiet voice inside keeps asking what would happen if someone actually saw you before you had the answer ready. This is the collapse. Not into chaos, but into invisibility, not because you're weak, but because you've forgotten what it's like to be held by something other than your own strength. Nietzsche warned, when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you, but maybe he left something out, because if you stare long enough, the abyss doesn't just look back, it waits for you to stop performing, to stop hiding behind insight, to stop thinking your way through a life that only asks you to feel. It waits for you to stop managing your pain and start naming it. Because what's collapsing isn't your competence. It's the belief that you have to choose between being brilliant and being human. And maybe now, right now, that belief is finally cracking. Not with noise, but with the quiet sound of a heart beginning to thaw. It doesn't happen with a breakthrough, it begins with a breach. Not a collapse, but a crack. A moment where something emotional slips past the gatekeeper of thought. Maybe someone asks you how you are, and for a split second, you don't know how to answer without lying. Maybe it's not even a big thing, just a song you didn't expect to feel, a memory you didn't mean to remember, but it hits you somewhere logic can't reach. You try to retreat. Back to the thoughts that never ask too much, back to the system that never judges, never feels, never bleeds. But this time, something's different. This time, the logic doesn't hold. This time, you feel the ache beneath the architecture, the warmth pushing against the walls, the slow, steady pull of something older than intellect. Feeling the one thing you've kept locked out of your brilliant fortress, the one thing you thought you had to outgrow to stay strong. You remember Icarus, not as a warning, but as prophecy. He didn't fall because he reached too high. He fell because he was never taught how to carry that kind of fire, and neither were you. You built wings out of intellect and they worked, but now they're melting. And maybe that's not failure. Maybe it's the only way down, down into your body, down into your grief, down into your joy. You're not falling apart, you're unfolding. And in that soft, terrifying unraveling, you begin to see what you were never allowed to believe. That emotion isn't noise, it's information. That feeling isn't weakness, it's entry. You're starting to understand what Jung meant, that your path to wholeness isn't through perfection, it's through the parts of you you've exiled. The mess, the need, the ache. And so for the first time in a long time, you speak without editing. You feel without analyzing. You let someone see you before you're ready to be seen, not to be fixed, not to be impressive, but just to be held. And in that moment you feel it, not control, not mastery, but something deeper return. You expected transformation to feel like light. Instead, it feels like breath, just a quiet inhale, unmeasured, unstructured, uncontrolled. A moment where you don't narrate your life, you just live it. You're not floating above the world in analysis. You're in it, rooted, present, human. There's no fanfare, no epiphany, just a slow willingness to let go of who you were when you didn't feel safe. The thinker, the observer, the expert, the mask. You don't abandon your intellect. You bring it home. It's still sharp, still powerful, but now it listens. Now it serves something older than knowledge, something that doesn't need to be explained to be true. You begin to notice moments instead of measuring them. You let your sentences end without perfect closure. You speak and forget how it sounds. You sit with someone and don't check if they're impressed. This is what Alan Watts warned about, mistaking the map for the territory. Your mind was the map, but your life, yourself, was always the land beneath your feet. You realize the abyss never wanted to consume you. It wanted you to see that you were already enough. You just needed to stop running from your own reflections. So now, when the silence comes, you don't panic. You stay, you breathe. You let the stillness soften you, and in that stillness, something opens you. Not the version people praise, not the version you control, just you, felt, flawed, full of life. So if these words met you where you've been hiding, don't vanish again. Say something, leave a mark. Share this with the one friend you know has been disappearing behind their brilliance. Not because they need fixing, but because maybe they've forgotten like you did, that they were never meant to live inside their mind. Their mind built the map, but their heart is the place they were always trying to find.